If you just learn about variables in Python, then you're probably already thinking, how do I store text data? So much useful information is stored in text format, so of course there's a way to represent that in the code. And we call that a string. So a string is just body of text. It might be a single character, single word, many words, whole paragraph, whole book, all closed in quote marks. So it looks like this. So double quotes here, and that is a string there. Alternatively to the double quotes, you could have single quotes, and either of those is fine. And like any variable, you can assign this to something like that. So that's how you can store text data as variables. Like I said, they can be as short as you want or as long as you want. You don't see this very often, but you can also have multi-line strings if you do triple quotes. And so this will keep the string together, even though it's spread over multiple lines. So if you have something which is a big chunk of text, many paragraphs, you might want to have it over lines rather than have it all on one. And so you can put that in triple quotes. Notice that if I set it back to single double quotes there, it breaks up the string, and I'm getting these underlines telling me, hey, this is not defined, because Python thinks that it's not part of this string which I've opened here. So strings will come up everywhere. They are the result of many different functions. You might call some function like an input to get a user input, and that'll return you a string. I'm sure I don't even have to go into it. You guys can figure out that there are loads of useful applications for storing text data, whether it's people's names, results of their inputs, results of some computation, or you're doing something more advanced like AI for natural language processing on text data. These are going to come up everywhere. This is the very essentials of how you create them. And I guess I'll just show you at least one more thing before I let you get on with it and use it. And that is, if your string needs to contain quotes, how do you do that? Let's say I just, for some reason, had a quote in the middle here. The string, it thinks it's ended there. So Python's got these red underlines because it's not sure how to continue at that point. It thinks the string started here, ended here, and now we've got some variables which are undefined and then an opening quote mark. Of course, that's not what's happening. Really, we just have some text which contains this quote. So what we want to do is we want to what's called escape that character. And to escape a character, which means to treat it not as it's literally written, but as a different case, then you could put a backslash like that. You see it changes color slightly, and now the string looks whole again. Now what this does, like I said, is any character which is preceded by a backslash will not be treated as literally, in this case, double quote mark. It won't be treated as its literal format. Instead, it'll be treated as something else. So in this case, it just shows the quote mark. But you might see other things like backslash n, which means don't treat that as a literal n, treat it as a new line, is what that one does. Or what else? I mean, you might have backslash quote, backslash single quote if you've got single quotes in there as well. You might see some other stuff. These are the main ones you need to know about anyway. So that's me using a escape character to escape that character so it doesn't get treated as it usually would. And maybe one other thing to note there is that what I usually do instead is if I know I'm going to have a short string with one particular type of quote in, I just encase it in the other type of quotes. So if I've got a string like this, which I know needs to include this character, then I'm just going to case it in double quotes. If I had a string which I knew was going to contain double quotes, I'd just enclose it in single quotes. So that's where you kind of might switch between using single or double quotes for a string.